How you doing, YouTube family? Today is Thursday, January the 30th, 2025. It's your man, Big D, and I'm back with another one. I want to thank all you good folk out there in YouTube land that continue to show support and loyalty to my son and I. He and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Family, let's take a trip down memory lane. Let's talk about from the dates of May 31st to June 1st, 1921, when a white mob attacked residents, homes, and businesses in the predominantly black Greenwood neighborhood of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which later became known as the Tulsa Race Massacre. And the reason why I thought about this was because I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about a variety of topics. But what we mainly landed on was this. There are very few black folk that have significant wealth. And what I mean by significant wealth is this. I'm talking about Oprah Winfrey wealth, Tyler Perry wealth, Jeff Bezos wealth. I'm talking about massive wealth. Now I get it. Everybody can't be super rich. But on average, we should all be at a level where we are still thriving. So it brought me to this point. There are no major institutions, and I mean lending institutions, banks, that are, now we do have a few black-owned banks, but on average, we don't have a lot of them. And until black folk get to a position where we can have things like banks, and we can have mortgage companies, and we can have car dealerships, until we get to that level, we are never going to ever see anything of great value in this country. So what I mean by that is this. When you look at the Tulsa Race Massacre, let me tell you something. The black folk in Tulsa during that time were almost all of them were very affluent. They lived in an affluent part of town, and pretty much there were a lot of black-owned businesses there. They even had a black-owned newspaper. So basically, this area was a hub where they operated amongst themselves. Now they would still do business with the white folk, but for the most part, they held their own. They took care of their own. They had their own. They thrive in their own little environment. Every now and again, they have to deal with white folk, and that's just the way it was. But they still, on the majority, held their own. But because of an incident that occurred with a young black man and a young white girl on an elevator, it sparked this huge massacre. And when you had black folk that came to the aid of this young black man that was on this elevator, something that probably was a mistake or misunderstanding, because I don't see no black dude back in them days purposely groping, touching, staring, talking, doing anything like that to no white woman. They ain't touching her. Hell, they ain't even looking in her direction. Not back in them days, unless they were crazy, because they knew what was gonna happen. So for the most part, black folk, they work they will work for their white employees and what have you. But for the most part, they just minded their business. They stayed within their own little community. Anybody who had any sense, that's what you better had done. Otherwise, you know what the end, you was gonna be on the end of something. So my thing is, because black folk stood their ground and said, hey, listen, we're not gonna let you all just, because basically the brother on the elevator was arrested. They said he done something to the young white girl. Something happened in the elevator. We don't know. Something happened. But at the end of it, he was arrested. And there was a large mob that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It grew into hundreds of white men outside the jail because they wanted to take this. They wanted the sheriff to give this brother up so they can go find the tallest tree, and they had the strongest rope. So you know what they wanted to do. But then you had other black folk that said, "Nah, it ain't going down like that." So you had other black folk that were military veterans, other black folk that was in the community. They came to the courthouse by wherever the jail was per se to help the sheriff defend this young black man from being taken and drug off by that mob. So the story of it is this: where would we be as a people if hypothetically Tulsa never happened? Tulsa never happened. There was never a massacre. There was never an incident on the elevator. Nothing ever happened. Where will we be as black folk in this country? We have to ask ourselves that. If this would have never happened, where would we be? Who knows? We could have had a black version of the Rothschilds, and not just one family. We could have had a multitude of families. So we have to ask ourselves, where would we have been if this has never taken place? But moreover, we have to ask ourselves this: how come is it decades and decades and decades into the future, how come is it that black folk, we still can't recreate a Tulsa with all the quote unquote education we have and all the fancy jobs we have and all fancy cars and all this and that? How come is it only a few of us can get to that status? Okay, if you ain't no athlete, you got to be an entertainer. If you ain't no entertainer, then you got to get it you got to do something else that's going to generate millions for you. But on average, the average black person walking around here, they barely surviving. They barely getting by. So I ask myself, had this Tulsa thing never taken place, where would we be as a people? We may never know, family, but what I know is this: it is no way in hell that we couldn't and we have not recreated Tulsa. As black folk, everybody, I've been listening. I love Minister Farrakhan. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he says, but for the most part, I adore the way that he conveys the message, and I'm passionate about him because he has been in the fight for a long time, and he been talking the same thing for a long time. So we all know about the minister, but the fact is, even Elijah Muhammad was talking about, maybe we need to separate. Maybe we need to separate. And it seems like in Tulsa, they kind of did, because the black folk had their area and the white folks, for the most part, had their area. Will they still do business with each other? Of course. And there were never no problems. So people have been saying this for years, that maybe we need to just separate. Maybe we need to just, give us all a little piece of wherever, so we could see if black folk could do it on their own. But you know what? Even with that theory, that wouldn't work either. Because at the end of it, we've had years and years and years to recreate a Tulsa as black folks, and we've not done it. So that tells me that it ain't going to happen. And the reason why it ain't going to happen is them black folk back then knew that they had to stick together. They knew that the only way that they was going to live to see another day, they had to stick together. That's why them brothers didn't have no problem putting their lives on the line. The brothers even put back on their old military uniforms and marched down to help the sheriff protect this brother that the lynch mob wanted. And they knew the value of sticking together, but we don't know it today. We are so divisive. We so quick to judge one another. If one of us do something that we deem that they shouldn't have done, that makes them a sellout, we want to talk bad about them. But as I always say, he or she that is without malice or without sin, then you cast the first stone. But oftentimes, nobody will take a look at the person stand back in the mirror. They always want to talk BS about other folk. But what are you doing? What have you done since you've been in this existence to make this world a better place, in particular for black folk? So it is no reason why we as a people should not have had the ability, the wherewithal, the know-how to recreate a Tulsa. Why could we have recreated another Black Wall Street? We've got people that have the money, the resources, but it seems that the way it is now, you have the have and the have-nots. Listen, it's not a race thing, because I have white friends, I have black friends, but it's an opinion thing. It's a thing where you have to look at the facts. And when the facts present themselves, you have to draw a conclusion. And the conclusion is this. We've always, as a people, we've always been behind the eight ball in this country. It's always been that way. Some of us make it, but on average, most of us, we don't. Most black folk barely eating. So in my heart, I feel like this, that, yeah, even back in the days of Tulsa, some kind of way, the black folk coexisted with the white folks and what have you. But I would like to think that maybe, just maybe, if this would have never happened, we probably would have reached higher plateaus as a whole. Not a few of us, but and maybe not all of us, because you're going to always have those of us that's going to be piss poor. They ain't going to be worth a hill of beans. But I believe the majority of us want to do the right thing, want to work hard, want to be successful, just need an opportunity. But there's just something that kind of just picks at me when I look at this whole Tulsa thing, and I say, man, yeah, them, they had their little Black Wall Street, and they was coexisting with the white folks back then. But did them white folks really want those Black Wall Street to really be in existence? Did they really? I mean, whenever they were amongst their own, what did they really have words of like, man, those black folks over there, they're doing it good. They're striving as a people. They're growing. We can live in harmony. Well, you think they was really talking about that? Or was it a possibility? It was just a matter of time. And when the opportunity presented itself, it gave us the chance to burn it all down. Well, family, always remember, be more tomorrow than you were yesterday. Peace.